Easter is right around the corner, everybody, and we're already frazzled from trying to find the perfect Easter basket for our child/children. And as your children get older, the needs, the specifications of this basket become more complicated. It has to be the one basket with the one thing, disregarding everything else that's in there, that caught their eye. You can't bring home something that's similar because it's wrong and Easter's ruined. Oh no. Or you can't find the same type of basket with a couple different things in it because then you've ruined Easter. But the one thing that you don't have to worry about is what you're bringing to the table on your Easter Sunday gathering. Today we'll be making the easiest, most delicious carrot cake cupcakes you've ever had in your life. We're not doing anything frilly. There's not going to be any pecans or raisins or anything inside the cake mix. Just a traditional OG carrot cake focused cupcake. We're also going to be doing two different kinds of icings. A traditional vanilla cream cheese icing. And guys, I've used this icing one time before in my cinnamon roll video, so please watch that video to get the specific recipe that I'll be using today. We're going to do a little bit of modification at the end, but I will show that exact process when we make our vanilla buttercream icing for the folks that don't enjoy cream cheese. They're wrong, but I mean, they're still family and we love them. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and start working on our cupcakes, focusing on our dry ingredients first. Alright, in our bowl we have 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour. And to that we're going to go ahead and start adding in our leavening agents. And that's going to be 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and then just for seasoning, 1/2 teaspoon of table salt or fine sea salt. We're going to go ahead and get that worked in. And what that baking soda is going to do is it's going to ensure that we're going to have a nice tender cake to bite into. And now we're going to add in our spices. We're going for a traditional carrot cake flavor. So what I've got in that container is 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice, and 1/4 teaspoon of cloves. And we're going to go ahead and get this mixed in. This is the spice cake part of the carrot cake equation. So we're going for all traditional flavors here. After we get that all nice and sorted in, we're going to add in our sugars. For this recipe, I am using 1/2 cup of regular granulated sugar and 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Now guys, you don't have to use the brown sugar if you don't want to, but it is a common ingredient in most traditional carrot cakes. So we're putting it in our cupcakes. We're going to make sure all those little rocks and lumps are worked out as we mix it in. And then once we've gotten it to a nice, good consistency, we're going to go ahead and add in our 3 large eggs, start folding that in. And once you start to see a rough dough start to form and clump around your whisk, we're going to go ahead and add in 2/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now you can substitute this with vegetable oil, but this is a tip I actually picked up from my wife who does a lot of baking, and baking cakes and brownies and stuff like that with olive oil makes it richer, a little more moist as well too. You don't have to use that if you don't want to, and this isn't even fancy olive oil. This is just some regular store brand extra virgin olive oil. And after that, we're going to be adding in 1/2 cup of regular applesauce. No extra flavors. And what this is going to do is keep that cake moist throughout its baking cycle. So that way we have a very delicious and really moist, tasty cake to bite into. And before we even can, incorporate that beautiful applesauce into our cake batter, we're going to hit it up with just 1/2 teaspoon of some real vanilla extract. Now, I've said this before in many of my, dessert videos, adding just a little bit of vanilla extract will elevate your baked goods to notches unknown. It's a neutral tasting substance. You're not really going to taste a lot of vanilla or really any vanilla in the finished product, but what it's going to do is richen the existing flavors and bring them forward in a way whereas, it wouldn't be if you didn't use it. Now guys, you don't have to use vanilla in this, but I would, because it really does elevate your baking game. It elevates the flavor. And after we get that mixed into a nice cake batter consistency, we're going to go ahead and add in our shredded carrots. And this is nothing more than 2 medium-large carrots shredded on the fine side of a box grater. We really want these to be fine shreds so that way they can break down into the cake batter more cohesively, adding some body and some sweetness. And once we got that all nice and thoroughly incorporated, we're going to take our muffin/cupcake tin, put some nice little parchment liners in it, and then we're going to portion out this cake batter as evenly as we can using this lever ice cream scoop. And if there are any cupcakes left over that look like they're a little lower than they should be, use the remaining cake batter to kind of fill them up to about 2/3 of the way. You really don't want to exceed 2/3 of the way or you'll have spillover. Some of mine did kind of go over this, but they turned out fine regardless. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to slam these bad boys in the oven, preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to cook them for about 20 minutes, test them with a toothpick. And then while they're baking, I want to go ahead and show you guys how to make this amazing frosting. And this is the part of the video where I become unhinged. I was going to make this beautiful vanilla buttercream icing using the whisk attachment of my immersion blender, but even on a low setting, as you see me struggling with here, this is low power, mind you, it sends off waves like a sawed-off shotgun, and I have butter fragments all over myself, the kitchen, the TV, my wife, everything. So I did what every smart person would do and take this to the stand mixer where we will complete this. In the bowl of our stand mixer, we have 3/4 of a cup of room temperature softened unsalted butter. And then we're going to go ahead and mix it on a low speed. As you can see, the whisk attachment is on. And we're just going to get that into a nice, fluffy, creamy consistency. And once we have achieved that, we're going to go in with our powdered sugar. And in this container, we have 2¼ cups of powdered sugar, and we're going to add that in incrementally. You will see me at times stop the blender and start scratching things off the side, so that way everything gets incorporated and I don't have like any dried powdered sugar at the bottom of the mixing bowl here. So we're going to do this in intervals. That does take a little while, but it comes together pretty quickly. And then once we've added 2 of the 2¼ cups of sugar in, we're going to go ahead and hit this up with 1/4 teaspoon of salt and then 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then we're going to pick up the speed to probably about 4 on the KitchenAid. And then we're going to get this into a nice creamy buttercream consistency, which you can already see is happening here. And then we're going to add in our last 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. And we're going to let that spin off until it is thoroughly combined. And this is where we're going to do some modification. If you're making the cream cheese icing like I am after this, we need to do this to make it become pipeable. We're going to go ahead and start adding in a little bit of heavy whipping cream, probably no more than 1 tablespoon to 1.5 tablespoons at a time. We're not looking to make this watery or liquidy. We are just getting it loose enough to where it's still thick but drizzleable. And once we've achieved that, consistency of thick but viscous, we can take this out of the bowl and then transfer it into another container like you see here. And then we're going to move on to our cream cheese icing. So I'll see you guys again when it's time to decorate our beautiful carrot cake cupcakes. All right, guys, it is time to conclude this saga. It's time to ice these bad boys. First up is our amazing homemade vanilla buttercream icing. Now, guys, let me tell you, these beautiful cupcakes have been resting for maybe about 12 minutes at this point. They were cooked perfectly at the 20-minute mark, so 350 for 20 minutes is going to get you where you need to be with these guys. And this vanilla buttercream is phenomenal. So what you see me doing here is, doing about 3 or 4 passes in a circular motion over each of these cupcakes as neatly as we can to make, a nice covering for our cupcakes. And guys, this vanilla buttercream is super good. It's absolutely rich and tasty and sweet without being artificial, like those canned frostings. You know what I'm talking about, the Pillsbury frostings, the Duncan Hines frostings. They all have this weird taste and smell, in my opinion. And it's not too sweet to the point where you get that burn on your tongue for eating, all those artificial sugars. Now, after all that beautiful vanilla buttercream goes on half of our cupcakes, we're going to move on to our vanilla cream cheese icing. And I'm not going to show you how that turned out because that kind of blew up in my face. Like with the last holiday baking video I made, something had to go wrong. And maybe this is the universe's way of telling me, hey, I shouldn't really be doing these baking videos for the holidays, but I'm hard-headed, so I'm not going to stop. So what you're seeing me do here is using the remaining buttercream icing to fill any gaps in coverage that I may have on some of these cupcakes. We don't want a bite where there's too much cupcake and not enough icing. So all we're doing is just editing out those bald spots. And now after we get all of our cupcakes beautifully iced, and as you can see, the cream cheese ones are absolutely not the same look as the buttercream. And that's because I had to end up scooping it out of the bag because it was still a little too thick to pipe.
But alas, we have a nice cinnamon sugar topping that we're going to put over top of these beautiful cupcakes. And what that's going to do is not only add some nice color, but it's also going to balance out some of that rich sweetness of our icing. So the only thing to do after this is to eat it.
Guys, that's it. And this does come together really quickly. In about 30 minutes, everything's pretty much done. Now, I did cut out the part where I had to frost my cream cheese icing ones because, as per usual in every baking video, something does go awry. And I ended up having to scoop out the cream cheese frosting and then kind of just spreading it to the best of my ability on top. And that kind of made my whole counter in my hands pretty much a wreck. And but we were able to save them. The problem with the cream cheese was I probably should have added about another 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. I was getting a little concerned it was getting a little too thin on the side, so I went ahead and pulled it. But it was just too much to force through the piping bag. So about 4 tablespoons of heavy cream will get this settled up. So this can be done within 35 minutes, technically making this a weeknight gourmet style dessert. So I'm just going to try one. That's really good. And the cinnamon sugar, although it was just a detail, it really brings the all the flavors together. It's not overly sweet. The cream cheese is not overly strong, and the cake is moist and beautiful and delicious. It's literally the best carrot cake you'll ever have in a cupcake form. Until next time, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.